Welcome to Guilty by Syntax, Episode 8. So, AI in public relations. It's becoming really integrated, isn't it, into daily work for PR folks?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Drafting press releases, handling bland responses, crisis management.
Yeah.
It's getting used everywhere.
Right. But here's the big question we keep circling back to. Is this amazing tool actually like revolutionizing the field in a good way, making things better? Or is it kind of, maybe silently creating this huge misinformation problem?
Yeah.
Something that could really erode trust, damage reputations?
That's the core dilemma, yeah.
That's exactly the critical issue we want to dive into today. Our plan is to really unpack the very real risks AI poses to content integrity in PR. And then, importantly, look at the specific framework, a new approach designed to, well, try and combat this challenge.
And the main concern, looking at our sources, it's pretty stark. The speed of adoption, how quickly everyone's jumping on AI and PR, it's creating just this unprecedented level of risk. Misinformation, potential ethical breaches. One source even called it a governance crisis in the making.
Wow, a governance crisis. That's strong.
It is. It really signals a fundamental shift in how information gets made and spread.
And this next bit, this really highlights the scale, makes it a real crisis for the professionals. Our sources show a huge number, like 80%.
80%.
Yeah, 80% of PR pros admit they find it difficult to even identify AI-generated stuff in their own campaigns.
Just pause on that for a second. If they can't reliably tell...
How can anyone else? Exactly. It's not just a little red flag. It feels more like, a five-alarm fire situation for the field.
Absolutely.
So to try and get a handle on this, to safeguard truth, we're going deep on this potential solution. The ACION Engagement Analysis Framework, the EAF, that 80% number is just staggering, really underscores the problem. So, okay, before we jump into solutions like the EAF, let's really pin down the threat. What are the specific dangers AI brings to PR content beyond just general worry?
Well, our sources point to several key risks, and they often feed into each other. First off, you've got straight-up fabricated facts.
Right, stuff that's just plain wrong.
Exactly. AI generating information that sounds convincing but isn't actually accurate. Then there's the more subtle risk of emotionally manipulative tone.
Okay, what does that mean exactly?
It means content crafted specifically to provoke strong feelings, maybe misleading ones, that can kind of bypass rational thought. Then we have synthetic deepfakes. We're talking artificial images, videos, stuff that looks totally real but is completely made up by AI.
Which is getting scarily good.
It is. And kind of underpinning all this is what the sources call algorithmically enhanced disinformation. That's false stories amplified and spread incredibly fast using AI algorithms. And what's really crucial here, I think, is that it doesn't even need bad intentions behind it.
Right.
AI content, just by its nature, if it's not carefully managed, can accidentally spread false info, amplify biases that were in its training data, and, end up damaging reputations pretty badly.
Yeah.
There's a quote from the sources that's quite chilling. Every PR campaign today is one click away from an ethical disaster.
One click away. That really hammers home the urgency, doesn't it?
It does.
Because like you said, this isn't some future thing. AI is already deeply embedded, right? It's writing press releases now. It's handling customer interactions on social media now.
Generating whole campaigns sometimes.
Exactly. And often, like that 80% statistic showed, without maybe enough human checking or oversight, the risk is happening right now.
Yeah.
So given that scale of risk, this ACION Engagement Analysis Framework, the EAF, comes up as a potential solution. How does it actually work? What does it do to fight these dangers?
So at a high level, you can think of the EAF as a kind of digital quality check. It basically assesses AI-drafted content against a set of critical questions.
Okay.
Questions like, is this information factually accurate? Is the tone trying to manipulate emotions inappropriately? Can we trace this back to credible sources? And really importantly, is there any sign it's been skewed by biased training data or involves synthetic media, deepfakes?
Got it. So it scrutinizes the content.
Right. And then it takes all those assessments and boils them down into a clear, understandable integrity score.
That sounds incredibly useful. What makes this EAF different, though? Are there other tools like it? What's unique here?
Well, one really interesting aspect is its origin story, actually. It was first developed to tackle a very specific, very intense kind of disinformation problem.
Whoa. Yeah, what was that?
In the Philippine digital landscape, it's an environment described in the sources as having issues with rampant disinformation, including things like red tagging.
Can you briefly explain red tagging? Just mutually, context?
Sure, so neutrally reporting from the sources, red tagging refers to the practice of labeling individuals or groups as communists or terrorists, often without evidence, which can have serious consequences in that context. The sources also mention coordinated troll armies and specific hyperpartisan narratives, sometimes labeled as a DDS network, linked to pro-Duterte online activity. The EAF was initially built to analyze and counter those kinds of sophisticated, often state-linked disinformation tactics.
Wow. Okay, so born from a real digital battlefield, in a sense.
Exactly. But the key thing is its underlying logic and its modular design make it adaptable globally.
Ah, so it's not just for the Philippines.
No, not at all.
Yeah.
Its core principles can be applied across very different cultural and political situations. Think EU media regulations versus, say, a US election campaign's PR efforts. It's built to be flexible.
Okay.
And beyond that adaptability, it has a couple of key features. One is narrative-aware tagging. This means it doesn't just look at isolated facts, it analyzes the content within the bigger story or narrative it's part of.
Which is crucial for spotting sophisticated spin, I imagine.
Precisely. Disinformation isn't always just a wrong fact. It's often about twisting the narrative. And it also provides contextual scoring for things like source credibility, emotional manipulation, and, yes, deepfake detection. It gives a much more rounded assessment.
Okay, let's unpack that score then. You said it gives a clear, explainable trust score. How does it actually get to that number? What are the ingredients?
Right. So the EAF calculates that score based on 5 main dimensions, and they're weighted. The biggest chunk, about 35%, goes to disinformation probability. Basically, how likely is this to contain false info?
Okay.
That's usually the strongest negative factor. Then source credibility is weighted at 25%. How trustworthy is the origin of the information?
Also very important.
Then deepfake detection gets a 20%, identifying if any part of the content is synthetic media. Sentiment polarity is 10%. Looking at the emotional tone, really extreme or manipulative language gets penalized. And finally, context-specific penalties, also 10%. This allows for adjustments based on specific regional issues or known problematic narratives, like the DDS network or red tagging examples we mentioned earlier, based on flags identified in the system relevant to that context.
Got it. So it's a multifaceted calculation. Can you give some examples of how this might look in practice, like what scores different types of content might get?
Sure. The sources provide some good illustrations. Imagine you have content from a really trusted news source, and the language is very neutral, low emotion. That might score quite high, maybe around 0.87 on a 0 to 1 scale.
Okay, high trust.
Exactly. Now take content from a credible source, but maybe it's using really loaded emotional language designed to provoke anger or fear. The score might drop to something moderate, like 0.65.
So the emotional manipulation brings it down.
Right. And here's where the context part comes in. Content from a source flagged as questionable may be associated with promoting what the sources term a DDS narrative in that Philippine context would likely get a pretty low score, maybe down around 0.42.
Significant drop.
Yeah. And even if a piece of content is technically accurate, fact-wise, if the EAF detects a deep-faked image or video attached to it, that would pull the score down too, maybe to around 0.55, moderate low.
So it's not just about facts.
Yeah.
But the whole package source, emotion, media authenticity, context.
Exactly. It gives reputation managers, crisis teams, a really actionable number to quickly gauge the potential risk associated with a piece of content before they use or amplify it.
That sounds incredibly thorough. But the big question then is, does it actually work? How effective is it? Has it been tested?
Yes. Definitely. The sources describe a simulation study designed to evaluate it. They used a data set of 100 social media posts.
Okay.
Half were real posts and half were synthetic, specifically designed to mimic the kind of disinformation tactics seen, again, in the Philippine digital space.
Right. Testing it against realistic fakes.
Precisely. And the key finding was that the EAF consistently gave lower integrity scores to the synthetic fake posts compared to the real ones, so it could differentiate.
That's a good sign.
But even more importantly, they compared the EAF scores to ratings given by human evaluators who looked at the same posts.
Ah, the human benchmark.
Exactly. And they found a strong positive correlation. The statistical measure, Pearson's R, was 0.85. That basically means the EAF's automated assessment aligned really well with how humans judge the integrity of the content.
Wow. 0.85 is a very strong correlation. That's significant validation.
It is. It suggests the tool is actually capturing elements that humans perceive as indicators of trustworthiness or lack thereof. And beyond just the technical validation, the sources also point out that the EAF is designed to connect with broader thinking on AI ethics.
How so?
Well, it aligns with, and in a way tries to operationalize, make practical principles from major frameworks like the OECD AI principles or UNESCO's recommendations on the ethics of AI. It also touches on ideas from thinkers who've critiqued digital information systems, like Floridi's infosphere concepts, Zuboff on surveillance capitalism, or Noble's work on algorithmic bias.
So it's not just a tool in isolation, it's trying to embody these bigger ethical ideas.
Exactly. It's positioned almost as a meta-framework, a way to translate those high-level ethical goals for AI governance into something concrete and measurable for PR and communications, putting accountability and transparency into practice.
That's really powerful. A practical tool grounded in ethics. Okay, so bringing this back to the people on the ground, the PR pros, communicators, maybe even just anyone creating content online. What are the urgent takeaways? What actions should people be taking now?
The sources lay out some pretty clear proactive steps. First, they strongly advise auditing AI-generated content. Use frameworks like this AiSEON EF to actually check what's being produced. Don't just assume it's okay.
Right, active verification.
Second, training is key. Communications teams need to be trained in what the sources call narrative-aware engagement. It's about understanding not just the facts, but the stories being told and how they can be twisted.
Seeing the bigger picture.
Exactly. Third, collaboration. Work with AI governance experts, people who get both the cultural side of communication and the technical side, the code.
Bridging that gap.
Yes. And maybe the most crucial, simple step. Disclose when AI is used to generate content. Be transparent. The sources really emphasize this. Transparency builds trust.
That seems fundamental.
It really is. And the overall message, the concluding thought from the sources is powerful. It's basically, AI isn't the enemy, silence is.
Silence is the enemy.
Yeah.
Meaning inaction.
Yeah, meaning not questioning, not verifying, not being transparent. The goal, they say, is to make public relations publicly responsible again. And the way to do that is by pausing, questioning, and actually scoring what we generate before it goes out into the world.
Pause, question, score. That's a clear mantra. So looking forward, what's the vision for integrating something like the EAF into PR workflows? Is this meant to become standard practice?
Well, the plan seems to be for it to grow into a more comprehensive enterprise-level tool. The sources mention a forthcoming white paper that will detail how it can be integrated more deeply. They talk about specific modules, things like automated integrity audits for press releases, using AI to detect potential brand crises early, tools for tracing synthetic media, and even providing overall reputation risk scores based on content analysis.
So a whole suite of tools built around this core idea of integrity analysis.
That seems to be the vision, yes. A holistic system to help manage reputation and maintain ethical standards proactively in this age of AI.
So wrapping this up, what's the main takeaway for you, our listener? It feels like in this era where AI is increasingly shaping the information landscape, tools like this AiSEON EF offer a really vital potential path forward, a way to help ensure truth and transparency, especially in fields like public relations. It's about giving professionals, and maybe all of us, better ways to control the narrative responsibly.
And maybe a final thought to leave you with. If that statistic is right, if 80% of PR professionals find it hard to spot AI content, even in their own output, what does that suggest about your everyday experience online? How much AI-generated content are you consuming without realizing it? And maybe more importantly, how can you start applying these same principles, questioning sources, watching for emotional manipulation, being aware of the narrative to everything you see and read? That critical lens feels more important than ever.